What if all this talk of peace is little more than a smokescreen, carefully crafted to distract from preparations for the next major confrontation? Beneath the polished smiles and rehearsed speeches, diplomatic language has begun to serve as camouflage, concealing a quiet but determined buildup of tension between the West and Moscow. Each side is rolling out new weapons and strategies, signaling strength instead of any real desire for compromise. Listen closely, and you will catch it. The word consequences, repeated with a chilling certainty. Yet this time, those consequences may land where no one anticipates. Leaders are locked in a game of high-stakes poker, but their real cards are not peace agreements. They are threats and warnings, each one sharper and more sophisticated than the last. In Washington, official statements could easily double as advertisements for the most advanced military technology. Across the table, Moscow drops cryptic hints about weapons no one has ever seen. Meanwhile, so-called negotiations sound less like genuine dialogues and more like carefully staged standoffs. The danger is unmistakable. If you take this display of unity at face value, you risk missing the subtle but unmistakable signs of an impending crisis, one that could shake both global and personal security to the core. This is not mere political theater. This is a global contest of power, with consequences being weighed in secret, alliances shifting quietly, and the stakes climbing higher with each passing day. Consider the events of the Cuban Missile Crisis, where the world's fate hung by a thread over the placement of missiles in Cuba. Back then, public statements were full of assurances, but behind the scenes, military hardware was being rapidly deployed, and the world teetered on the brink of nuclear war. Today, the patterns are eerily similar. Only the tools and technologies have changed. Before we accept the official version, let us step back and examine who truly holds the cards at this volatile geopolitical table. The latest moves from both Washington and Moscow reveal just how far each side is willing to go. Let us examine the evidence behind the rhetoric. Is this diplomacy, or simply a magician's trick, played with nuclear stakes? Today's world stage is no roundtable for peace. It is a high-stakes poker game, and the cards are marked with threats. The United States, under leaders like Donald Trump, performs a spectacle of pressure and bravado. Ultimatums ring out across the Atlantic, each paired with fresh military upgrades, all cloaked in language that promises progress and security. To illustrate, recall the recent statements from American officials, who have outlined a menu of sanctions, trade restrictions, and military aid as if unveiling a new product line. This is not a new tactic. During the Cold War, American presidents routinely showcased new missile systems in public addresses, using them both as deterrents and bargaining chips in negotiations. Opposite, Moscow does not raise its voice. Russia delivers its warnings in low, metallic tones, punctuated by shadowy announcements of new, enigmatic weapons. These are not empty bluffs. They are threats, veiled, deliberate, and delivered with a calm that chills more than any shout. Consider, for example, the unveiling of Russia's avant-garde hypersonic glide vehicle, an innovation that caught Western analysts off guard. The demonstration was not just a technological feat, but a message. The balance of power is shifting, and the rules are being rewritten. Europe sits between these giants, nerves stretched thin. Its leaders strike poses of resolve, but behind closed doors, the continent frets over the gas in its pipelines, the sums in its bank accounts, and which way to lean when the next ultimatum lands. Energy security is the unspoken dread in every official statement. Think of the winter of 2022, when the threat of gas cutoffs sent prices skyrocketing and forced governments to scramble for alternative supplies. This economic fragility is a weapon unto itself, shaping foreign policy as much as any tank or missile. Diplomatic language now feels more like advertising. Sanctions are pitched as the price of peace. Weapon systems are sold as guardians of stability. Each side markets its moves as steps toward harmony, but with every headline, the world inches closer to real confrontation. Meanwhile, private tech accelerates the arms race in the shadows. Innovation blurs into escalation, and citizens are told it is all for their safety, even as hidden risks multiply. In this climate, A single misread gesture could unleash economic shocks, political chaos, or even worse. The old rules have vanished. The new ones are being written on the fly, often by those who stand to profit most from upheaval. But what happens when the cards on the table are not the only ones in play? Beneath the surface, unseen moves are already reshaping the balance of power. What if the real arms race is no longer waged in the shadowy halls of government, but in the gleaming labs of private tech titans? The new face of global conflict hides behind the glossy veneer of innovation, where the weapons are more elusive than ever. America's drive for dominance now flows through private industry. Everyday marvels, think of Starlink satellites or next-generation re-entry capsules, promise faster internet and bold exploration. Yet beneath these promises, there lurks the power to seize instant military advantage anywhere on Earth. SpaceX rockets, lauded for delivering astronauts and satellites, now serve double duty. Projects like rocket cargo and similar startups quietly transform outer space into the next war zone, blurring the line between commercial enterprise and covert combat. A concrete example is the use of commercial satellite imagery in modern conflicts. During the recent war in Ukraine, civilian companies provided high-resolution pictures that revealed troop movements in near real time, giving military planners an unprecedented edge. This is a far cry from the days when only governments could access such technologies. Civilian networks, from globe-spanning satellites to humble spacecraft, can operate as stealth military platforms. These systems provide instant communication, intelligence gathering, and even real-time targeting, all concealed beneath the banner of technological progress. Capsules that look like science experiments may in truth hold payloads capable of unleashing devastation across continents and in a fraction of the time old arsenals required. The old taboos, like the strict ban on weaponizing space, are dissolving, quietly, as entrepreneurs chase profit and governments cheer them on. This new public-private blend creates a perilous loophole. Escalation becomes easier. Accountability slips away. After all, it is just business, not a declaration of war. But behind the slogans and press releases, the potential for sudden attack grows, leaving societies exposed to threats they never anticipated. If we fail to see how private technology is arming the heavens, we risk forfeiting both deterrence and defense. The very innovations we celebrate today may one day overturn the world's security, all before we realize what has been lost. As governments quietly encourage this innovation for hire, the boundaries of conflict become harder to see and far more dangerous to cross. What happens when even the rules of war are rewritten by those outside the public eye? Imagine this. The next global crisis might not arrive with a warning siren or a televised speech, but as a silent shock from the cloud or from above our heads. In this new era, conflict is no longer heralded by columns of tanks or urgent calls between presidents. It could unfold in seconds, triggered by an invisible strike from orbit or a hidden command sent to a data center halfway across the world. The arsenal has changed. Some weapons now orbit the Earth, others remain locked away in secret labs. All are designed for speed and surprise. The first strike could be digital, disabling a nation's power grid or erasing entire financial networks in the blink of an eye. By the time anyone realizes an attack has begun, it might already be over, and the damage could be irreversible. Consider the cyber attack on Estonia in 2007. In a matter of hours, government websites, banks, and media were paralyzed. The event marked the arrival of a new era in warfare, showing how digital strikes can bring a nation to its knees without a single shot being fired. Today, the scale and sophistication of such attacks have only grown. As this shadow arms race accelerates, Europe finds itself in a tightening economic trap. Debts are spiraling higher every year, with governments borrowing just to keep services running. Leaders stand before cameras, promising unlimited support to both their people and their allies. But behind the scenes, the numbers tell a different story. The bill is mounting, faster than anyone dares to admit, and repayment seems increasingly impossible. Fissures are spreading. Hungary and other uneasy partners begin to speak openly about ditching the euro or even withdrawing from what they now call a sinking ship. Alliances once thought ironclad are showing cracks. Some governments quietly seek new deals beyond Brussels, hedging their bets in case the European project begins to unravel. The illusion of unity is fading fast. Trust between member states is at its lowest in decades. Privately, governments are drawing up contingency plans, preparing for worst-case scenarios that include not just economic collapse, but even open conflict. Publicly, leaders stage photo ops and pledge solidarity, but their private calculations are far more cautious and far more grim. Even the process of negotiation has become a performance. The line between peace and war is blurring as both sides escalate their rhetoric, stockpile new weapons, and sign agreements with their fingers crossed. In this new world, the old rules no longer offer any real protection. If these trends continue, it is not the politicians or the generals who will suffer most. Ordinary people will pay the highest price. Economic hardship will deepen. Trust in institutions will erode. The threat of sudden, catastrophic conflict will hang over daily life. One morning, the world may wake to a disaster no one predicted, and for which no one is truly prepared. History offers warnings. In the years before World War I, the world's great powers spent heavily on new weapons and alliances, believing that deterrence would keep the peace. Instead, a single assassination in Sarajevo ignited a chain reaction, plunging Europe into years of carnage. Today the machinery is different, but the risk of unintended escalation remains as real as ever. So the question is not just who holds the strongest cards. It is what you can do to protect yourself when the very rules of the game have become impossible to trust. But how did we reach this breaking point, and who truly benefits from keeping the world in suspense? To understand, we must look closer at the hidden moves shaping the next chapter. How do you keep your footing when the ground keeps shifting under you? In a world where high-tech breakthroughs and military ambitions are merging, the boundaries between progress and danger are disappearing fast. Start by questioning every story that promises a brighter future. When new technology slips quietly into military hands, ask who really benefits. Not every innovation is meant for the public good. Sometimes it is just another play in a global game where the stakes are security, power, and money. Do not let secrecy become the new normal. Whether it is governments or tech giants blurring the line between civilian and military tools, you should demand real answers. Transparency matters about what these technologies can do, what they cost, and whose interests they serve. Our future is too valuable to be traded away in shadowy deals or hidden behind corporate jargon. Resilience is no longer optional. It is a survival skill. Diversify your sources of energy. Never rely on a single supply, whether oil, gas, or electricity. Spread your financial risk. Think in terms of different currencies, investments, and backup options. Most importantly, do not depend on only one source of information. A single stream of news or analysis leaves you open to manipulation or outright deception. Let's illustrate with a scenario. Imagine a sudden cyber attack knocks out your nation's power grid. If you depend solely on one bank or one energy provider, your ability to adapt vanishes. But if you have multiple accounts, emergency supplies, and reliable sources of independent news, you stand a better chance of weathering the storm. In recent years, families in Puerto Rico who prepared for power outages after hurricanes fared better than those who trusted the official assurances that the grid would hold. Remember, the economic and security risks that once felt separate are now tightly linked. The next financial shock could come from a drone strike, a cyber attack, or a sudden blackout, not just a bad trade. Your personal plans, your savings, your work, even your daily habits must reflect this new, unstable reality. Wishful thinking and bunker mentalities will not protect you. Above all, refuse to be a silent observer. Hold those in power accountable, whether they sit in government offices or Silicon Valley boardrooms. True debate about the course of technology and military policy is not just a right. It is your shield against being sidelined or sacrificed as the stakes rise. If we fail to think ahead, we risk becoming collateral damage, watching control of our future slip away while others gamble with peace and prosperity. The consequences are real, and they often strike where no one expected. Look at the example of whistleblowers in history. When Daniel Ellsberg released the Pentagon Papers, he exposed hidden strategies and risks that threatened to drag America deeper into the Vietnam conflict. His actions sparked public debate and forced leaders to confront uncomfortable truths. In today's world, a similar commitment to transparency is more vital than ever. With the rules changing and the pressure mounting, it is time to face reality before every card is played and your choices disappear. The game has already begun, and every move matters. Next, let us look at the hidden forces shaping tomorrow's world order. In this high-stakes game, the worst move is sitting out. So what card will you play? Around polished tables, the world's leaders speak of peace, but their hands deal in shadows. New weapons are shuffled, alliances tighten, and rules are rewritten by the hour. The language of diplomacy is a card trick. Negotiation in one palm, escalation in the other. Every handshake hides a bluff. Yet beneath the surface, a different game unfolds. A global poker table where the stakes bleed far beyond politics. Your security, your prosperity, your very peace of mind are in the pot. These risks are not abstract. Military buildups grow behind closed doors. National debts spiral upward. Conflicts are sparked by private invention as much as by public decree. Each promise of progress may be another chip tossed onto the table of confrontation. Believing you are merely a spectator is the most dangerous illusion. History warns that the cost of the game finds everyone, even those who look away. Every missile launch, every sanction, every technology unveiled, these are signals that the game is real and the bets are rising. So, what part will you choose? Will you trust the headlines and hope for the best? Or will you start asking the hard questions about the deals made in your name and the debts quietly mounting beneath your feet? In the end, the greatest risk is pretending the game is not real. Only by being informed, skeptical, and engaged can we hope to protect what matters most, our future and the fragile peace that hangs in the balance. When the stakes are this high, and when the moves are made in shadows, only vigilance and resilience can guarantee that the choices ahead are truly yours to make. Because in this new era, the real power belongs not to those who hold the cards, but to those who see the whole game.